this just happened and is going to turn into a big story. Florida Republican House lawmakers just approved a new congressional map. Remember, yesterday, the Florida State Senate did this. So there will be 4 new Republican seats in the House based on this map. They also, and this is going to get a monster amount of attention, they also have stripped Disney of its special powers, and they ended Disney's big tech exemption. On now to the governor's desk, Ron DeSantis will be signing this. Let's talk about each of these and why they are significant. First, Buck, let's talk about the congressional map. We talked yesterday. Ryan Gerdusky was fantastic. Encourage you to go listen to the podcast of him breaking all this down. But effectively, Florida has added 4 Republican seats, which will count out the additions that New York, Illinois, and cancel out, I should say, California have tried to do to add seats to the Democratic tally. So assuming that this is upheld by the courts and all these battles, a lot of these redistricting battles end up in the courts, 4 more seats to Republicans. And putting that in context, we are 5 seats from a Republican-controlled House, from Kevin McCarthy taking back the gavel from Nancy Pelosi. So Florida by itself is almost flipping that. Obviously, other states are making their own moves. But this is big, number one, for the larger national political landscape.
It's one of the few times I can think of where a Republican politician anywhere has done something other than just talk a big game about pushing back on woke corporations. Woke corporations, understand this, everybody, were really the vanguard of both BLM propaganda and of COVID lockdowns over the last 2 years. And woke corporations, yes, they're trying to indoctrinate your kids and trans ideology and all this stuff that's going on. They support all that. Clearly, Disney does. But they have been used, and really in concert with the White House. I mean, let's understand, the White House openly says, we're telling Facebook to get rid of more disinformation online. Because that's more powerful than any other platform of information dissemination out there. The White House is straight up using these corporations. The Democrat Party is using companies as political weapons. So we can either sit there and say, well, we would like a neutral space where commerce and capitalism, or we can say, you know what, there are going to be consequences for this too. You can go back. I've talked to people about, in the ad industry about this for many, many years. I'll say, and this is before things got quite so woke. I mean, I remember having a conversation with somebody at a big ad agency years ago who said, you know what the difference between the left and the right is? The left doesn't even have to boycott. They just do enough that the companies are always looking over their shoulder, always concerned about the possibility of. When was the last time the left really organized a boycott against a conservative company? They'll do it, but generally speaking, it's just the threat of that's enough to get companies to try to preempt. Think about how tilted the battlefield is in their favor in that circumstance. Now with Disney, we're seeing real action take it. And Clay, if Disney doesn't like it, they can just build their own Florida.
Yeah, I saw you tweet that out. And so that's the second part of this. This is really significant. And certainly social media has made that worse. Because, Buck, I've been there, you've been there, but a lot of companies haven't. When suddenly you have 500 or 1,000 people angry and tweeting at you, it feels like everybody in the world, the first time you go through this, cares about whatever your issue is. When the reality is for 24 hours, people are going to get fired up. There's going to be a tempest, and then that tempest almost always passes. What DeSantis has done here to Disney is let it be known that there are consequences for left-wing woke Disney politics. And the consequences are going to be pretty significant. And the reality is, despite what Governor Jared Polis might be trying to say in Colorado, which got some attention, oh, why don't you just move here? Yeah, are they going to pick up Disney World and relocate it from Orlando and all of the hotels and put it in Colorado, which, by the way, has awful weather where nobody is going to want to be outside? Even if they could relocate Disney, I don't think they would be picking Colorado, but they can't. They can't relocate Disney World. They've got all this land. They built all the hotels. Disney needs Florida at this point more than Florida needs Disney. And so What they have done is when Disney bought all this land back in 1969, basically the state of Florida said, hey, you get to be judge, jury, and executioner over all of the decisions that are going to be made with these tens of thousands of acres. You want to build a new lake?
When it comes to
you can
development,
do it.
Right? They don't. It's not,
development.
This isn't like
Yeah.
they're not setting up.
They don't get to put somebody in prison. But
Yeah.
but in terms of the master plan, you want to build a new hotel? Good. You want to build a new lake to have right in the center of Epcot? Good. You can do that. What reportedly, Buck, they also get tax abatements and all sorts of benefits from this. It's hard to know the exact dollar value of this, but there's a story in the Wall Street Journal, I believe, saying it's worth tens of millions of dollars a year. Disney doesn't like to talk about it because of the benefits that they're getting, and now that's gone. As soon as Ron DeSantis strokes his pen when this bill gets to him, right there with the House and the Senate bill that they have passed. So when he signs this, boom, this disappears. And so this is a different level of battle. And the ultimate calling card on this, the referendum on it, is going to be what happens in this election in November. Because if DeSantis wins by 7 or 8 points, and I think he probably is going to win by 7 or 8 points, that's going to be seen as a seismic shockwave in what was considered to be such a battleground state just a few years ago.
I just also have to ask why there aren't more Republican governors. I posed this question earlier on in the week, who see what's going on in Florida, who see, look, let's be honest, there have been articles written about this. People have been saying leadership of the Republican Party right now, or I should say the sense of the Republican leadership's base of power has moved a bit from Texas, which has been the stalwart red state that people felt like they could go to for freedom, to Florida over the course of the pandemic. Now, Texas is still great, and there's still a lot of, obviously, fantastic stuff going on there as a state, even with Governor Abbott in charge. But you have to wonder, why aren't more of them seeing what's going on and following here?
Yeah.
Because it's not like Ron DeSantis, think about what could have happened. He could have gone against the consensus on COVID, and he could have picked some of these battles and been politically destroyed over them.
Yes.
Right? He could have, if they had a much higher percentage of not just COVID cases, but COVID fatalities per capita than comparable states, if they had economic ruination because they wouldn't go along with the wokeness, if 80% of Floridians or whatever had disapproved of the parental rights bill, he keeps taking risks. He keeps throwing it out there and hitting home runs. And you wonder, why aren't these other Republican governors, some of whom probably listen to the show, or at least their staffs do, following in his footsteps? Corporate money for their campaigns? I mean, I really don't know. Are they just, they don't have the stomach for the fight? Yeah, they don't have the stomach for the fight. I think that's what it is.
Because it's hard, Buck. Initially, the natural reaction among, I think, Republican politicians is when the mainstream media comes for you, you curl up in the fetal position and hope they leave. And what DeSantis's natural instincts, and I think this is Trumpian in nature, and that's where I think the most lasting legacy of Trump may well be, is so many Republican politicians were terrified when the New York Times or CNN or the Washington Post or MSNBC came for them. And they would beg for forgiveness and or run from whatever policy was getting a lot of attention. What Trump did was say, no, I'm going to own it. And DeSantis is, I believe, a particularly politically adroit and skilled individual who has, along with his staff, correctly diagnosed that most of the outrage that exists in this country is not representative of the masses. And so if you just withstand a little bit of outrage and own your opinion, most of the time it fades. They've gotten used, the left wing has, to being able to bully people into doing exactly what they want. And when you don't do it, you suddenly realize there ain't a lot of power behind the punch of the left wing when you stare them down. It's a lesson that everybody should be taking. Certainly it's one that we've been trying to instill in people with this show by saying exactly what we believe and owning it, no matter what the reaction is. Ron DeSantis and the state of Florida passing two big bills, one that would go with 4 additional Republican congressional districts. The other one, which would hold Disney accountable, basically when it comes to zoning-related issues that right now they don't have to get approval for on tens of thousands of acres of Florida land in Orlando. And, Buck, this probably isn't going to surprise you, but you asked the question, why don't more governors take actions like Ron DeSantis is taking? And I think that's a question, Republican governors, that is, in redder states. I think that's a question that a lot of people have. And I'll give you an answer that's already started. I'll give you one guess as to what people are saying about Ron DeSantis' new congressional map. What is he being called?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. Democrats have such a wide lexicon for the slandering of conservatives. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's racist.
Ding, 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 ding.
Wow, look at that.
The attack dogs are out. He's already been called a homophobe, anti-transgender, because he doesn't want kindergarten, first, second, third graders in being taught about gender-related issues as it pertains to sex. By the way, we need to play the cut for maybe when we come back, we can play. Actually, maybe we have time for it right here. We'll play it for you. But in general, Buck, this whole situation here is emblematic of, I think, what people fear. They're afraid, Republican governors are afraid of being called transphobic. They're afraid of being called racist. And the reality is, what Ron DeSantis is doing is widely supported, as we said earlier, on, for instance, the parent rights bill. Democrats in Florida support it. So he's willing to power through the criticism.
I mean, it feels to me like if Trump had a superpower, right? If you were talking about Trump as a superhero, if he had a superpower, it was that he wasn't afraid. The media could and did say anything about him.
Yes.
I mean, it's almost shocking when you go back and think. They openly, New York Times, CNN, Washington Post, biggest media outlets on the left in the country, called him a racist, a white nationalist, a traitor, a rapist, a criminal. I mean, they call them all of those things. And Donald Trump just laughed at them and slapped them around verbally all the time. That was really his superpower. Because Republicans usually wilt under this, right? Republicans, and they usually
go full Mitt Romney.
Yeah, I was literally going to say they pull a Mitt Romney. And it's totally what they do. They go, oh, I'm here to say that Black Lives Matter, Mitt Romney of that protest. Ron DeSantis saw that, and he's like, yeah, that's right. And now maybe Ron was like that beforehand, but I'm just saying he is also now adopting that superpower, and it is a very formidable thing. Stop being scared of the people who hate you anyway, hating you.
Yes, Buck, there's a good analogy here. Sometimes people, one of the best compliments you can give a football player is say they play downhill. It means you go full speed through all of the slings and arrows of the sport. You are going to take the blows, but you're going to come hard every single time. Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump, I think both play politics downhill. They bring the lumber with them when they are involved.
This showdown in Florida between Ron DeSantis and the activist woke left, in this case through the prism of Disney, which is pretty remarkable when you think about it, it's escalating, folks. This is now a major national story because here's what we saw in the most recent election, right? The off-year election that occurred in Virginia. Parents mobilizing and, first of all, seeing what was being taught to their kids, seeing what the school boards and what the school administrators and unions really favor, which is just the interests of adults over the children, and also wokeness and indoctrination. That created a surge that delivered a huge win to Governor Glenn Youngkin and almost delivered a governorship, the governor's mansion in the state of New Jersey, to a Republican, which would have been completely mind-blowing in politics, given the numbers, the registration advantage Democrats have there. But parents who are mobilized around the idea of what their children are learning, what the school system is doing to their kids, it's a big issue. Democrats thought that they would regain the moral high ground by picking this fight over the, I don't like to say the Don't Say Gay bill because that's propaganda. It's called the Parental Rights in Education Law. It was signed. It is law now. But they got to rename, and the whole media, you saw this working in real time. They got to rename it And what happened was a remarkable reversal because of exactly what Clay and I were just talking about with you, which is that Ron DeSantis doesn't get punched in the face and run away and say, I'm sorry, libs, please don't be mean to me. You take a swing at Ron, he's going to take a swing back, politically speaking. And he fought back on this by telling people, read the bill. Remember those press conferences he would have when they would say,
yes.
Why do you have a bill that just says don't say gay? He'd say, is that in the bill? Read the bill. What is in the text? What does the polling say about the bill? Now, of course, now it's a law. And the more we find out about the Democrat position on this, the activist left position on this, the more trouble I think it's causing for them politically. And they know that the time is, the time is flying here. We're going to be at that midterm election soon. And angry parents are not good for the Democrat Party right now. Jen Psaki was on the, I guess, is this going to be like an NFT or some kind of a collector's item, all the interviews that have been on CNN Plus? Because, limited edition, let's be honest.
They're very much limited. If you're just getting in your car, CNN Plus has been canceled. It's a glorious day for anybody who believes in truth. But that is the joke there, because I think some people are like, what, already? Yeah, 21 days it lasted.
It turned out to be almost like, a band that came together for a few last live performances that also happened to be their only performances.
Yes.
But that's what CNN Plus was. Here is Jen Psaki when she's, and I want you to listen closely. We're going to play this whole soundbite for you. Listen closely to the White House press secretary, who just a couple days ago was literally sobbing. I mean, not exaggerating, sobbing in an interview about how mean the parental rights and education bill is. They say they don't want to teach your kids this stuff. Listen to what the White House press secretary claims.
The law is not about teaching sex education. It's about teaching about gender identity. So what do you do if a kid in one of these elementary schools says, what about Sally? Sally has two moms. Or I'm not sure if I'm a girl or a boy. I mean, these are kids who are experiencing these moments in their lives. I also think that there is not a big record of there being either sex education or extensive gender identity education in these schools. And this is creating a problem or a political cudgel about an issue that I don't think exists.
Well, first of all, she just said that the issue exists, okay? So you can't say, what do you say to a boy or girl who asks whether they are a boy or girl? I have an answer for you. As someone who has had 3 kids through kindergarten and currently has a first grader, you tell them, boys have penises, girls have vaginas. Go to the bathroom of your gender. You are one or the other. This is not a complicated question. Anybody who has ever had a 5-year-old has had to say, hey, boys go to the boys' bathroom, girls go to the girls' bathroom. We don't need to confuse the gender of a freaking kindergartner, okay? So the fact that she says this isn't an issue, like within 30 seconds of saying, what do you say when this occurs? The answer is you are not in the business of telling someone that they are a different gender than what their biology purports to show when they are kindergartners, first graders, second graders, and third graders. And the idea, Buck, I would be furious if my first grader came home and said, hey, today at school, one of the teachers said that because I had a pink shirt on today, that I must be a girl, and they sent me to the girls' bathroom. I mean, this is crazy talk. We know what boys and girls are. Like, there was that great meme of Amy Coney Barrett, when we had just had the Ketanji Brown Jackson hearings. She couldn't answer what a woman was, and there was that, remember, Amy Coney Barrett memorably had like a note card in front of her, and there was a meme where it just said, boys have penises, girls have vaginas. I don't understand how this has become confusing or complicated for the Democrat Party.
That's one of the more memorable statements of fact from Kindergarten Cop, for those who don't remember.
Yes.
Which is a movie. Remember?
Evidently, it's a hateful
it's
film
not a
now,
tumor.
based historically.
It's not a tumor. I remember. We all remember Kindergarten Cop.
Yes.
And I do want to tie this in, though, Clay, to why the libs of TikTok hit piece also happen now. Because you notice Jen Psaki, and that's exactly the right analysis of this, Jen Psaki says, this isn't a problem after saying it is a problem. Because they can't get the story straight. You saw this with CRT. You see this with the left a lot. You saw it with inflation. But in the CRT is a closer, more analogous situation where they say, that's not CRT. No one's teaching CRT in school. Oh, you can't know what CRT is unless you have a PhD, to, damn it, they're not letting us teach CRT anymore, right? They go through these processes of trying to hide what's happening and lie and misdirect. Exact same thing here. Why does this tie into libs of TikTok? Because, and to be, someone understands, libs of TikTok ends up being on, Tucker Carlson's show, and ends up being on Facebook and other platforms too. So it really was just a feeder but it was showing people, teachers, who were saying how important it is to them to teach 5-year-olds crazy stuff. So Jen Psaki's life is complicated to lie to you, the concerned parents of America, about what your kids are being taught, because she's out there saying, this is just about, like, what if somebody has, gay parents? No, that's actually not what this is about. It's about teachers who want to have pronoun choice day and tell a little boy who's 5 who says, I feel like a girl today, oh, well, let's chase this down and not tell your parents. And maybe in a few years, we'll even have a transition for you. That's what this is actually about.
Yes.
And that's why they were trying to shut down libs of TikTok, because some libs were saying it out loud.
No, there's no doubt. And this is when you know that you are over the target, when you start taking flack. And what's amazing to me, and we talked about this earlier in the week, Buck, I really feel like the Democrats, I saw somebody tweet this, are trying to tank. And I said, what could they possibly be thinking on all of this? And someone sent me an email, and I thought it was an interesting email regarding the masking and the decisions that are being made. And they said, the only thing I can think, Clay, because I agree with you and Buck, this was the email, was saying, hey, it seems like they're intentionally picking the worst argument of every single issue, right? If you had to sum up the Biden White House, Buck, you and I, even if we were being hired to try to spin for them, there's almost nothing we could spin in their favor. And the argument was, I feel like, and this is his argument, but I'm curious whether it might actually be true, they are trying to set up to be able to have all mail-in ballots again in November by saying COVID still hasn't gone away, and that is their safety net. That's the only thing. And I'm sitting here trying to think, why would they be arguing in favor of the DOJ even appealing this mask situation? And that's the only thing I can think, Buck, because otherwise everything they're doing, the Biden's touch is destroying everything that he touches.
I got to say, I really hope that every Democrat running for office in Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, I hope that they really, really dig in. I hope they really get as deep as they can on the issue of it is a core foundational right in society to have publicly funded bureaucrats telling your 5-year-old that it's time for gender transition talk. I want them all to run on this. Their party believes it. They should have to defend it. I want them to explain why the White House is putting out, we need pre-adolescents to be having gender transition surgery as well as hormones, and that is standard of care. And if you don't believe that, you're a bigot. Let's have them run on this. Go for it, guys. Go for it.
Amen. It's child abuse. It is, without a shadow of a doubt, in both of our opinions, and I think almost the vast majority of the American public as well, it's child abuse to be trying to change someone's gender when they are under 18 years old. It's shameful. It's indefensible.